All right, and welcome for those of you that are joining us. My name is Jedediah Butler. We're going to kind of slowly welcome Scott. I don't notice, I lost my menu. Oh, there it is. Let's put it back together. I was trying to see how many have joined. We already got 25 in, 27. We got a lot coming in. We have up on our screen um, a code projected, but I think we're also dropping in the chat a code for you all to join. So if you go into the chat, you'll be able to click on that code. And you might be saying, wow, we're getting to business right away. We kind of are. It's mostly the joining business. But again, my name is Jedediah Butler, but Jed is great. I think we need to cancel the automatic notes. Scott, do you normally cancel the automatic notes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. But do we do that? Do we each need to do that, or you cover that?
I take care of that. So
Awesome. Some people are asking, should we use our teacher sign in? It doesn't matter which account you use to sign in because this is a single session ID. That is the one exception where it doesn't matter what account you use. It's just kind of a one-time join. I would just say use an account that you feel comfortable with. Using your teacher sign in will be good for the middle of our activity as we get into some actual constructing time. You get to build some things of your own. And I say that because you might want to build it in an account that you can save it. So that's always super helpful. As you join this code, and I already see that there's quite a few people in here, I'm going to anonymize us. But I did notice before we anonymized that somebody chose the name Student67. That is still hanging around. I just had in my class, not even 2 hours ago, one of my classes flipped out because the join code for a little quick quiz through a website had a 6-7 in it. And it was a hard quiz on material they haven't even seen yet, kind of like a pre-test. And they were aiming to get 67%. And I said, that's actually a pretty good score. Let's aim for it. And they got it. It was fun. We had some good times. I've been embracing it, trying to have fun with it. Okay, so as I am vamping here for you all to join, we do have a total of, it looks like 14 plus 6. So we got about 20 people in the activity, but we still have about 34 in the Zoom call. So as you're joining this activity, it is helpful if you're joining it where you could have screens side by side. If you can't have screens side by side and you'll be listening to us in the video call as you observe and work in the activity itself, that's probably the best choice you could have. But we'll try to work at a pace that you could go back and forth as needed. But in this first activity, I want you to not only interact with the screens, but kind of notice a little bit of what's going on. This is a webinar. Webinar means that your camera and mics are off. You are able to see myself. We'll introduce everybody here in just a moment. You can chat within the webinar itself as well. We want to make sure that you send your chat to everyone. And if you have questions during the webinar, feel free to use the chat or you can use the Q&A feature. And as I mentioned about talking or asking questions in the chat, I'm going to pass over to my partner here and let him introduce himself and what he's doing here tonight.
hey, I'm Scott. Glad to join Jed here, taking care of the chat, answering questions that you have as we're moving through. Feel free to drop those into the chat, and then there will be some time towards the end that Jed will answer questions then also that we have. So my name is Scott, math teacher, math department chair outside the city of Chicago.
We also have another host here as well. I don't know, do you want to introduce yourself, Kristen?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Kirsten Dean. I'm a marketing manager with Amplify, and I'm also here to support. So feel free to put your questions, comments, whatever you'd like to share in the chat. We're hoping that this is a fun time for everyone.
Awesome. And I did introduce myself by my name, but I didn't tell you much of what I do. I did hint that I was in my classroom not that long ago. I'm a high school math teacher in year 20. I currently teach at a high school down in Southern California. And my favorite things are what I wind up teaching this year, which is geometry and calculus. But I've been doing this sort of thing with Desmos, Amplify, and all of the above for a long time, almost as long as it's been around. So I'm excited to work with you all tonight. As we go through some of these things too, you can show us where you are on the map. I know a lot of people have dropped where they are. I think this is the first time I've seen a teacher from Romania, which that's amazing. So awesome there. And hopefully you can find it on your map and share it with the class. And then also a quick question here. It says, which of the following best describes you? That's more just of a rating of where do you sit and this whole idea of building classroom activities. So we have a bit of a range. A lot of people kind of in the C column is our majority, but we have a broad range here, which is great. Feel free to ask beginner level questions, intermediate or advanced level questions. You have very experienced people here that have probably seen or experienced something that you're curious with. And now I'm going to go over to the teacher section because I want to take a look at the map and see where everybody is. We have a majority over in North America, the United States, but we do have some spread out in like Southeast Asia, Australia, in Europe. That's probably the Romania right there. That's really neat. Okay. So as you've kind of warmed up and I've given you a little bit of time to get into these screens, this webinar is recorded. And I do think that, Kristen, does the webinar get automatically delivered to them as a recording?
Yes, it does.
That's okay. So it should automatically get delivered to you via whatever email you registered for the webinar with. So you'll get a recording of the webinar one way or the other. All right, now we're going to start diving into what's going on tonight and just a bunch of sample ideas. Which is kind of interesting because we're going to notice what these screens look like, but a lot of the focus here is going to be on how do I actually create those things, not just experience it like a student or even analyze how it works, but how do I actually build it? So let's start with, I'm going to sync you guys to me and go to this agenda. Our first step is we're going to experience different components. Let's see if I can close this. Try to get that a little bit larger. We're going to experience different components and learn how to build them. So a component is like the different items that you see on the screen. So if you hear us say component or element, we're talking about something that's on the screen. And we're also going to access resources to continue our learning. We don't anticipate to give you every experience possible here, just to more get you started, and try to answer any questions that you have along the way. What we're not going to do, just so we make sure we're clear, we're not going to learn about the teacher dashboard. I'll preview that for you mostly here. So I'm projecting to you what is described as the teacher dashboard. A lot of times people think of the teacher dashboard more specifically as like the summary page, but it's really any of these things here. And training about the teacher dashboard is something that does happen. It's something that we have a webinar series on, but that's more to do with how do I use the controls of the dashboard while I'm actively running a session with people that are attending. So how would you do what I'm doing right now? Not build it to do later, but how would you do what's happening here and now? That's a separate session. That's not what we're doing today. So we are also not going to learn about assigning activities. So a lot of you probably have some relationship with the classroom where you would have students join activities and you would assign them to them. We're not going to go over all those details, though our resources can direct you there. We're not going to do a lot with Polypad. So Polypad, we're going to barely touch on it, and you can try some things with it. But Polypad in itself is a whole basket of things you can do. And we actually have webinars that are specifically targeted just for Polypad. Polypad is another part that was merged into Amplify, but it's directly interactive inside of Activity Builder, which is this system here. Computation layer is the kind of programming or coding that makes these items or elements, these components on the screen, talk to each other. And we're not going to get a lot into those details. So you might have things where you have like a multiple choice question next to a graph, but you can actually make that choice and that graph kind of connect with each other with information. That's not what we're going to do today, but that is also another webinar. So if you are interested in going deeper, trying to see how the different elements interact with each other, that's the advanced computation layer. Okay, I'm gonna bring us to screen 6. I have you all synced with me. I want you to go ahead and just comment here. This is more like our student experience. What do you notice or what do you wonder about this screen in particular? We're gonna kind of go through these next 10 screens rather quickly. I'm gonna give you maybe 30 seconds a screen. It's okay if you don't give full answers. This is more for us to touch on each type of screen and kind of notice what's going on the screen. People say, I notice the sun. I wonder where it is. A lot of you are commenting on the picture itself. Feel free to almost in a meta way, notice what you even see on the screen. Like I see there's a picture. I see that I can type in the text box. I have people saying, how did we insert this photo? So again, this is a media insert. And when I say media, that could be a standalone photo. It could be an animated kind of GIF as well. You can upload a video, but I will say it's kind of pretty low memory in terms of the max memory you can upload a video for. Most often, you're going to find yourself uploading just a simple photo or like a small animation. Let's jump to the next screen. Go ahead and notice what you see here. I see that there's 4 pictures. I notice too that I can click on each of these 4 pictures. And after I click on each of these 4 pictures, I'm asked to explain my thinking. Well, I might be wondering, what am I thinking about? There's a question as the title. It says, which one doesn't belong? This is a math routine used in a lot of classes, but go ahead and just put in a sample response. Choose one of these 4, see which one you choose. And a quick reason, doesn't need to be multiple sentences, maybe one good sentence about why you chose that. I see some people are describing some words. I also notice that the answers get filtered according to which picture they chose. Now I said I'm not going to do a lot about the dashboard, but one of the reasons that is helpful, just kind of as a side comment, is I can click on a choice, and when I do, it will tell me like what those or how many students chose that one, and I could even send them some notes. Got lots of good efforts there. Okay, now we're going to see another screen. Again, we're kind of speed running through these screens. That one was pictures as a multiple choice. That's always kind of interesting to include. Now we have a screen that has a list that can be sorted and sorted in a specific order. In this case, order does matter. I notice on this that I have a picture on my right side, as opposed to the other one had a picture kind of in the middle. So what we're going to start to look at too is how can we see the different elements kind of in a different layout. This also lets me drag these pieces here. I still remember the acronym from my childhood that included P for Pluto. I think everybody learns their own acronym. Mine was my very eager mother served us 9 pizzas. Does anybody else have that acronym? Scott, did you have that one?
I did not. No. We had to try and memorize the names of the planets, so didn't have a kind teacher like you did. So
I don't know. I think it was just a creative artist type teacher. I don't even remember if they were kind, but I'm assuming they were. All right. So this has that sorting list. Notice that there's also a couple of comments here. It says like closest to the sun, furthest from the sun. So you can give labels to how you want to spread that sorted list. So you can use things that tend to have like a maximum or a minimum or highest number, lowest number, most favorite, least favorite. You can also get a little more argumentative, but still highly mathematical with questions like which is the most curvy or the least curvy, and talk about what that means in terms of interpretations. But one of the great things about this content is that it's now expanded to a lot more types of subjects. So I said I'm a math teacher, but we're seeing a lot more teachers in other subjects. Here's a version that you can see just a small example of basic knowledge in a science context, but you can use more complex questions in that as well. We're also looking here. Now I have a screen with media, like we saw before, a sorted list, but then an additional explain your thinking. So you can add multiple elements on here. I noticed too that this says a title, celebrate different ways of thinking, and it has order these themes from least important to most important in a story about friendship. I'm pretty sure, I forgot to double check this one, but I'm pretty sure this actually is a thing that's called like a subtitle, the way that it's laid out. That is the tiniest bit of CL kind of stuff, but I will try to point that out because a subtitle is useful when you're creating the layout of a picture. Um, let's keep on moving forward. All right, this is one that I want to hear just because you don't have a lot of comments that you can write on your screen, but I'd like you to jump over to the chat and I want somebody to notice like what is same and what is different about this screen. So come on back to the chat, and this is my way of trying to get you to do a little bit of interaction. What is the same? What is different about this screen that we're on now? Let's see if we can get any kind of comments into the chat. Ooh, let's see. Here we go. We got full screen and it's a graphing calculator. That's it. That's the big move. And you were probably all thinking, this just looks like Desmos calculator. So components can be small and can be multiple on the same screen. Sometimes they can be even stacked vertically, depending on which combination you have. Or they can be full screen, but only a handful can be full screen. The graphing calculator is one of those things. For the most part, if you have just one component on the screen, it gets placed in the middle and does take up a fair amount of size. But there are a few components that spread themselves across. Somebody said we can import in Desmos into this. Yes, you can. And that's actually a good move that I didn't think about bringing in. I don't remember if that's in the notes. But yes, there's going to be this series of like copy and paste. We're going to see so much copy and paste. Okay. This is a classic math version of a screen where you have a graph on the left side. Notice that the graph doesn't have any interactive clicking pieces. It's more like a picture. And on the right, it just has what we would call a note. The question here, what is the slope of the line, is actually written as a note. And then it has an input. And this is a math input where when we type things in there, so if I type like 2x plus 5, it looks mathematical. If I even write the word like this it's all italics because it's expecting me to type something in more of an equation format or a number format. So the components right now that we see are graph, note, and input, but math input. Okay, now we have things where we have a graph, a note with some information and a question, and a multiple choice here. So again, you can have a multiple choice, but the thing that I always love is to notice that you can have certain components or parts of components appear after the fact. So we're going to see also, how do I make a like explain your thinking show up after I've selected a multiple choice. Okay, and we got just a few more introductory screens. Once we get to screen 16, I think we're going to start doing our building. Yeah, 16 was kind of our screen, our cutoff. Okay, and so we're gonna, and it's gonna be a lot of building. You're almost done with like the kind of experience it as a student. Notice on this screen that I have something on the left where it looks like a picture, but now I have some more things where I can actually plot dots on it, or I can type a math label. So this is, I always call these labels. They're like a text box kind of thing, but I like to describe them as labels so that my students know how to use them. So when this says plot 2 points that are each 5 units away from A, I'm like, oh, I can click the X and delete all my stuff, but I can also try to count 5 units away, and I can count 5 units away, and I can start trying to figure out where those points would be. Try to pick points that nobody else will. And if you're fancy thinking about 5 units away diagonally, you might come up with a 3, 4, 5 Pythagorean combination as well. And on this page, very similar. It's pretty much the same thing, but there's a subtle difference. Notice that I'm going to actually pace you all between screens 13 and 14 so that I can very quickly, you can go back and forth and see the difference. So kind of click your previous and next arrow back and forth, and notice that they each have this sketch component. But in the sketch component, I can be specific as to what kind of tools I want them to use in the sketch. So in the first one, I really just wanted them to plot points. I wanted to control that. So I only limited to the point plotting button and then the math label and the erasing. But in screen 14, I have the point plotting, and I got other tools like a text tool, a segment tool where I can click, hold, and drag to draw a segment. And of course, I still have the erasing tool as well. I also don't think, okay, so in 13, I can choose like the colors. And do I have that available? Yes, on 14 also, I'm allowing them to choose the color and the weight. All right, the next one is probably the most versatile screen in terms of works with the most type of content areas. You, I'm sure, have done a game where you have stacks of cards for students to match into groups based on relationships between those cards. But this one is a very math version. I think mental note, Kristen, I don't know if you want to write this down for yourself, but this would serve as a great screen to do something non-mathy as these webinars are trying to be exposed for more different areas. But essentially, you're trying to make, this is called a card sort, but it really doesn't have a ranking to it. It's more sort into groups. So when something's non-linear, I notice that I can put those two cards together. I also notice in this that my linear button or my linear card and my non-linear card.
Hey, Jed,
Yeah.
you add screen,
Oh,
card sort screen?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna just go back to sync to me. Thank you. I was talking about it and I left you all behind. Thank you. That's why we have Scott and partners on this.
So move ahead, sync to one more screen ahead, and then you're there.
Oh, there we go. And perfect. Okay, now we're all synced on this card sort screen. Thank you all for being patient. Are we able to change the color of the label and fonts? So Phoebe, to answer that, like kinda, it is a little bit more advanced. There are ways to change some labels and fonts, but kinda is the best I can say. If you want to make something custom color, like so on this picture, I see a lot of black and white. But if I wanted this nonlinear to be something more colorful, and I could describe it as like the purple group or the blue group, what you would do instead is you would have to make those images. So I can give tips. There's ways on how to very quickly and efficiently turn your titles or your headers into images. Essentially, think of it as slides in a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint slideshow, and customizing the size, and then doing all the formatting, coloring, font that you want, but you download them as images. Because on this screen, the type of cards that you can include are text, math equation, graphs of any kind. But if you want, you can also just add a custom image, a custom photo. So that could be a screenshot from somewhere. It can be a downloaded photo, and anything you want. Now our final screen, which probably has the most going on, but will almost in an inverse way kind of do the least amount of practice building, is Polypad. And that's purely because there is a complete other webinar on Polypad. And these other things will probably give you plenty of stuff to do. So in Polypad, it's almost like you're in a brand new tool. Everything here just looks brand new. So we have all these things that we can choose from in the menu along the side. And it essentially is a lot of like drag and drop kind of interactive pieces. So I can click on each of these pieces, and when I click on an object, it has some options for me to do in a menu. For example, this 3D looking shape has a slider that allows me to unfold it as a net. This shape here, I can choose to cut it, and I can like slice it into different pieces. So if you're thinking about composite figures or composite areas, that's something to do with students. In things like this counting hand, I can actually make it count up or down. And when I go more than 5, it adds an extra hand. And I can also drag these dots into place for counting like a 10 frame with elementary. So this is like a virtual manipulative. That's exactly what it is. It is a virtual manipulative with so many different buttons and things you can do. The most probably celebrated manipulative, I think, for secondary math teachers has been this machine here, which is referred to as the function machine. You drop a number into the landing zone on one side, and it comes out the other side with whatever rule was in there. And the rule can even be hidden, so you can have them guess the rule. You can even have more than one machine and show functions as a series of composite steps. There's so much you can do with it. So what I'm going to do now is give you an idea of how you can just create something from scratch. But this is where we kind of have a new thing. And Kristen, I was thinking of having them go ahead and make a copy of the one that we had for them as a template. Instead of having them start one from scratch, we have a template for you that we want you to use and make a copy of. So we're going to, Scott, do you have that link ready?
Give me a second here.
No problem. And sorry, I have it here, so I can drop it in.
Right.
Cool. I'm going to drop in this link. Sorry that I kind of surprised you there. Okay, so this is the link to like the teacher link of an activity. And I believe it should take you there. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to go through this kind of quickly at first. So I'm going to go do a speed run, but then I'm going to give you some work time, like actually a lot of work time. But we'll actually, no, we're going to do this kind of piece by piece. This is the new part of the webinar that we're trying to feel out, like what are the steps and the we should be going through. So I could go through it like a student, but instead I am going to remix it. So anytime you find an activity link like this, you're like, I love that activity. I want to make my own edits to it. I want to kind of create some of my own stuff. Or maybe you started an activity And now you're coming back to do more with it. We're going to click on the 3 dots next to the plus sign over in the top right corner. And in this menu, one of the options that should show up for you, no matter which account you're signed into, is copy and edit. So you need to make sure you're signed in. It should prompt you for that when you click on the link. You click the 3 dot menu in the top right, and you're going to click copy and edit. All right, now that I'm in this screen, it almost looks like the dashboard, but there's some subtle differences. You'll notice along the left side that there are a lot of buttons. Now, I'm in an Amplify account that I think gives me access to more buttons than the standard. So I'm not sure. I almost want to open it up in my personal account to see what others, but like the iframe, I think that's still internal to Amplify only. Do you, Scott and Kristen, know?
Yes, there are a couple other screens there, but not too much different.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have something that says like passage and iframe. So you probably don't see those buttons, but that's okay because you got all the main ones. So right now this says rename this screen and try to add a free response component and ask students to, and it looks like it got cut off there in the title. Maybe it is a little bit longer. Well, I have to, to explain their thinking. So that's a lot of text there. We don't want the screen to have all the text up in the title. Like that's kind of hard for readers to go along with. So we're going to rename it. We'll call it the welcome screen. But it also asked us to add something where somebody could add a free response text. So if I want to add any element, I just literally click. So I'm going to delete that and do it again because it was so fast. I go over to the free response button on the left side and I click, and it noticed that a couple things happened. The two elements are now side by side. So it's when you add more to a screen, it tries to appropriately adjust the layout so you can fit things side by side. Sometimes one of the situations is with media and just a free response, you can make them stack vertically centered in the middle. That's how you all saw it when we first did it. If I wanted the media, the picture to be on the right, I can drag this over to the left side as well. Now, how I'm dragging that is a little bit different. If you notice when I hover, I can't just click and drag anywhere on the box, but instead I want to get to the 3 lines. Sometimes people call it the hamburger or the taco or the hot dog, but it's 3 lines at the middle top of a component. And when you click, hold, and drag from that button, it will let you move the things around wherever you need to. Now I need to tell them what I want them to answer in this box. What I notice is this preview button up here will let me see what's going on. So if I click preview, I'm going to see what the students have. And I notice, okay, there's a picture, there's a question box, but I don't know what the question is. So I'll click the X to get out of preview mode. And now I'm going to add a note and say, what do you notice? What do you wonder? So I don't have the edit image URL. What is it? I only have replace image. Okay, so that has more to do with people that are in the internally, like I'm in an Amplify account right now, but when I'm in I don't work for Amplify full time. I'm a classroom teacher that works at a public school. And in mine, it would look just like yours. It would just say upload new image or replace the image. An image URL is more for Amplify content because they have a much bigger system of curriculum and they have to house their images in certain ways so that the images aren't necessarily only in the activity itself, but they're actually organized in their image banks elsewhere because they have so many images across so many different things, and they also have to have license to those images because they're doing them for public use. But you as a teacher, you can kind of use your own professional judgment on what images are appropriate and what images fit kind of fair use as well. One thing that is interesting with the images is you can add an image description, super good for accessibility. The image description is something that screen readers will be able to access and help students who have vision issues with accessibility. So they can at least get a description of what the image was looking like. And how do we add the note? Oh, so again, so I'm hovering over on the button that's on the left side, and it's a note. A note is really any sort of text you want to appear on the screen, usually like a question prompt or more information for them to do. One thing you'll notice is when you want to edit the note, you have on your general kind of editing of a activity, you have text that you can type, but if I highlight something and I click on the B for bold, it'll bold that, or I can italicize, or I can underline. So you have a few text features that you can edit. Mine has some color editing because this is more controls added for an Amplify account. But if for a standard, like just free account that anybody gets, you at least have the bold, underline, and italicize. You also have this math button, which lets you type things like fractions that look like fractions, and it's not 2/3. Awesome. And using preview is helpful in the building. Yes, just like Scott said, like as you make things, preview. It's kind of like tasting when you're cooking. You don't know if you're adding too much salt or too much spice to something. Honestly, I think we need to add more salt and spice to almost everything. But sometimes you're not sure if it's the right amount or if it's the right look that you want. Okay, quick on the other screens. I think I'm actually tempted to just let you guys take like a 10-minute jump in, click around, and see what you can do. Don't worry about breaking anything. And then I want to come back and start asking for you to ask some more questions. And I'll go back and I'll do like a second round of introductory type things. Especially the card sort. I'm going to hold off on the card sort until kind of later because there's some things that are really, some moves that are really helpful to know about what you guys asked earlier with the fonts and the colors and doing things as images. So right now let's see, we are at 10 past. So I'm going to say, let's build for not very long, 10 minutes. Let's do a 10-minute sprint. I'm going to set myself a 10-minute timer. And see what you can build just messing around on those screens. Also, please do ask if you're having trouble with making a copy and editing. The way that we did that was we went to the screen of the activity. Let me go ahead and click publish. And it was copy and edit. Do notice that when I hit publish, and now I have my version of the activity, like my personal version, now it says edit your activity because this is my copy. It's my copy of build a custom activity. So I'm going to edit that one. All right, 10 minutes is running. You're already at 9.5 minutes. Is there an undo after adding a component? No, there's not. But, and I know Scott, go ahead and type it in the text for others as well. But what you can do if you're like, oh no, I clicked the button like twice. Whoops, that happens. It's happened to me a lot. The 3 dots in the top right of a component opens up a lot more of options, but at the bottom of the options is a delete component. So you can say, oh, I didn't mean to add that, or I changed my mind, and I can delete a component. So do explore like those 3 dots because you'll notice that you'll have usually a little bit more information. And I keep showing too much. This might be something too, Kristen, that when we present the editing of the custom template that we present it from not the Amplify account. And Scott, do you know, is this because I had other
Yeah,
like,
so to do that, well, first of all, Jed, could you go to the activity where they were acting as a student and just unsync it? So allow them to move between
yes.
screens so they can look. Thank you.
Done.
Yeah, so one feature is you have to log out or open in a different window, logged in a different way to do it. I can show you how to do that some other time. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. And sorry that I didn't have that kind of figured out ahead of time, Kristen. But that's a note that we can add for the presenters, just so we don't have this kind of kind of deceptive presentation like, oh, look at all these buttons you get. Just kidding. You get some of them, but not all of them. I think you still get plenty of buttons. Scott, can I tell you my favorite component to add? And it's so boring. Can you
What
guess?
is that?
Yes, if I describe it as boring, which one do you think it is?
Uh, Not sure what you would say would be boring.
Okay, I don't think it's boring, but it's table.
Oh, the
I
table? Yeah.
love tables. Oh gosh, it's my favorite. It's my favorite way because it's one of those that I've learned to treat tables as like a multi-input from students. So if they're trying to input like I teach geometry, so we have a lot of like, what's this value and this value and this value, and how do they work together? Like different parts of a diagram. I just love tables. And you can still use, once you learn the computation layer, you can still use a little bit of feedback even within the table box.
Good question that Brooke that you've asked for the requiring an answer. That work takes some computation layer to do that, to require a student to answer before letting the student move on to another question.
Yes. So a lot of the idea of trying to control the pacing of a student, the intention is more that the teacher is actively doing that using the pacing controls. There are ways to restrict it with coding. But even then, like the more effort you put into trying to control the student experience, the more it's also going to break. So just know it's kind of like writing software from scratch, that the more kind of features you want to add, the more bugs you're going to get. So if you're willing to jump into that deep end, it's a fun place to play, but it is by no means the shallow end of the pool. Can we add images into tables? Not really. You can add anything that is like an inline text. So I say not really, because you can use emojis, which maybe you consider emojis to be an image, but it's not necessarily the image that you were thinking of. But you can use an emoji, and people were asking about LaTeX, it looked like, selecting the type math and using some, oh, that was Scott answering.
Yeah, so the question there was, is there some keyboard shortcuts if you're using in the type math? And yes, if you know some LaTeX shortcuts for things like that, that can be used.
Yes, there are. And those do work pretty well. It doesn't do all the keyboard shortcuts that you would think of, but it does do a handful of them. So slash for fractions, SQRT for square root. When you use parentheses, it groups them in a way that everything kind of expands as the inside of your parentheses is grouped. It uses your shift 6 for your exponent. Your underscore is shift underline or shift dash. That also works for subtext. Ooh, challenge creator. What is challenge creator? We're not going to go with that. Was something we actually decided to cut from this kind of session, but you may find challenge creator added to other activities. Essentially, challenge creator is like activity builders version of what most teachers described as a gallery walk. And a gallery walk is where, oh, and we're going to say that, yes, we can copy those screens for them to use. But the gallery walk is something where like students create things, but then they go and observe each other's creations. So in the challenge creator screen here, the thing that we haven't done, is this the challenge? No, we don't have that here. Oh, do we have it back in our original activity? No, we don't. So what we might do before the end is we will we'll include in the hopefully maybe in the agenda eventually too, but we'll at least include some activity. Scott, I'm going to ask you on the side to just go find an activity that has a challenge creator that we could show them and they could know how to copy and paste it.
Mhm.
Because
And-
we're not talking about how to build it.
Mm-mm.
In this world of like trying to make my own stuff, you're going to find that, oh man, if somebody else already made it, it would be so nice if I could just copy and paste it.
And Casey, you are very correct in saying that it is tricky to make.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Let's see. Awesome. We still have about 2 minutes on our timer. I'm going to go quiet just for a little bit, review my notes, make sure that I'm still on track. We are 4:15. We're probably going to do about 30 more minutes of interactivity with our last 15 minutes reserved for closing, Q&A, surveys, all that kind of stuff. But you guys are doing great. And Kristen, are you kind of taking notes on the timing? I'm just kind of feeling it out, but
No, but I can definitely do that.
so like in this moment where we said just a 10-minute sprint, I want to kind of see how was that for participants?
Yeah.
Another 50 seconds, and I'm going to come in and ask you all to share. And then I'm going to kind of push us into like some more intermediate skills with some of these things that we haven't seen. So I just want to see what you started so far. All right, my timer is up. Here's what I would like you to do at this point. I would like you to, well, I see what you guys wrote there. We're going to use that not right away, but in about 15 minutes. We're going to get to the starter screens. What I would like you to do is take a screenshot. If you're not sure how to take a screenshot, it kind of depends on what device you have. But for most of them, you will have some sort of Control Shift and another button. If you're on a Chromebook, it's Control Shift and there's a window button near the top middle that has like a rectangle with vertical bars. If you're on a Mac, it is Control or Command Shift and then 5, and that would give you a screenshot that you can take. We just want you to take a screenshot somehow. And what's the keyboard shortcut nowadays for Windows? Is it just Windows and print screen? Can't remember. Yes, you can use these to create a marble activity, but in our next moves, we're going to talk a lot more about copy and paste. see somebody was asking about making a copy of this activity. Thank you, Kristen, for dropping that in there. So again, when you're at an activity, you click the 3 dots, copy and edit, and that'll take you into your copy of it. Okay, once you do have your kind of screen that you screenshot that you've done, then I want you to get to screen 18. And I just want to see if you can insert a screenshot. So on screen 18, and I notice that more and more people are jumping back in. In this text box, a neat feature that we're going to see how do we make that active is you can actually upload an image. So you can click on upload image. So if I say, hey, here's a screen that I made, and I take a screenshot of it, it's going to be titled screenshot for me. So I will save that to my desktop. That's fine. There we go. So I took a screenshot of mine. I would go back into this. I'd click on the upload image button here. Oh, and it won't let me because I'm in the teacher mode, but you would have a prompt for choosing the picture that you can upload. So I want to see if you can try to upload a picture. We have a few coming in. This is great. We have somebody who did it looks like a multiple choice with graphs. That's awesome. And so they actually were looking at a multiple choice or which one doesn't belong with graphs. We have somebody who was doing a handful of things. This one looks like they had one of their screens was the full screen graphing calculator. We had someone here talk about some transformations, and they have a transform graphed on the left, a little note with a prompt for the type of thing they're looking for, and asking for the transformed equation to type in there. This person just took a picture of their dashboard. They wound up trying the button and the table. The button is one of the things that we didn't go over. The button is usually tied to some sort of computation layer. You could just add a button on a screen just to have the students click it. It's like another fidget thing for them. But it's more tied to that. Here we have somebody that started with a card sort. They have Grogu and Spock, and you would try to match the name with the picture. That's great. And then we also have, hey, I'm going to type in a little bit of an equation. This actually looks like it was a screenshot of maybe something that was put into the media, because some of the formatting here is not the same as what we would normally have. But you could technically type all these things into a note. It has it centered and some other things for them to fill in. But excellent sharing there. Thank you for that from those that you put that in there. All right, I'm going to go back to my editing, and we're going to do a little bit more of kind of like the medium level or an advanced level of some of these features. So first and foremost, I want to talk about a multiple choice. So let's say that I wanted to do a multiple choice, and I'm going to add a note, and I could ask just real basic questions like, what colors are considered warm colors? And maybe this is an art class, maybe it's in an elementary class where you're talking about some color theory. But I might say, okay, I have red, maybe I'll make an orange, blue, a green. I could even try to add a picture in those. So what some people did is they clicked on these additional buttons where you can add an image to, you could upload an image file to each of those multiple choice. You can add a graph or a geometry sketch, a graph in there. I can also mark which answer I want to be correct, but I noticed that I've shaped this question in a way that there's more than one right answer. And I'm like, oh, I really wanted that to be a checkbox. Well, a couple of things I could do here. I could delete this and then add a checkbox and start all over. Or there's actually the ability in the choice options to swap back and forth between multiple choice or checkbox. So I'm going to click on checkboxes, and I'll mark both red and orange as an answer key. Oh, does it let me? That's interesting. I thought this would all of a sudden let me. Let's add another color just in case. See if that lets me. Okay, now I'm able to click. That was interesting. So when it was multiple choice, it kind of froze the choices. I'd never seen that before. But I'm going to add this choice as orange. And I'll change the other one to purple. Now I have two answers like for my warm colors. When you mark answers in a multiple choice, that sets those as a correct answer. Why might that matter? Well, in preview mode, I can see this picture and I notice that I can mark more than one answer. I can mark all 5 if I want. But in the top during preview mode, I can say show correctness. And this happens to be incorrect because it doesn't match the answer key of what I selected in my multiple choice. The show correctness feature is purely a teacher thing. This isn't something that automatically shows up for students. That would be like a CL kind of component. So I'm noticing a couple of questions, but Scott, are we good? Are those just chat questions?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. Another thing was from this drop-down menu, I can make the buttons look slightly different. So I can either change them to basic buttons, which just gives a different view. It's like turn on or off these buttons. Sometimes that's just helpful in the way that it's interactive. Checkboxes sometimes implies check mark multiple answers. You can also add some text here that just says select all that apply, something like that. And you can also randomize choices as well, which is great because when you randomize choices, that way students won't just be saying, oh, it's just the first and the last option. Those are the answers for the answer key. Now, again, on these things like the free response here, let's say I wanted to add a free response as part of this. When you choose a free response type thing, it does have things that you can allow them to do. So you notice that you were able to upload an image. You might not want students to upload images. So depending on your classroom culture, you might have students that see that as an opportunity to kind of disrupt. There's certain periods that I will not allow them to do image uploads, and other periods it doesn't make a difference one way or the other. But students can essentially upload an image if you enable it there. Audio is also a feature. That's something that does come into play, especially with world languages, or whether or not you want them to be able to type math. These options only come up in the free response. The way you learn what options you have is by clicking that 3-dot menu. I'm also going to click on ordered list here on this page. I have a lot of things going on here. So if I were to say order the colors of the rainbow, so I could have red, orange, was it Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So if for some reason I wanted to have it start and finish with something, maybe I'll say order from red to violet, and I'll make them do it from in that order. So it's like I'm giving them the first and last answer. But notice that, well, if I made this a certain order, do I want them to have like an answer key order? And I can say use my order as an answer key. If I check mark that, it's going to force it to randomize. If I don't really care about an answer key, but I want them to order something least favorite to most favorite or least difficult to most difficult, I could at least randomize it so that students don't start with the same order every time. But here is just another version where you can kind of have a correctness check where it has like a certain order to it. So again, if I go to preview and I were to correctness check, I can check that the orange and red is going to be there. And this one I need to order from red to violet, and it's still not quite correct, but red, orange, yellow, blue, into Roy G goes before the blue Biv. And now I'm correct. How do you select the correct answer or multiple correct answers? That's when you're in the author mode and you literally just answer it yourself. So you just check mark the things that you want to mark as the answer. Okay. So we've looked at how to use the 3-dot menu. I'm kind of checking my own list here. We haven't renamed a lesson yet, but we're going to do that in just a moment. We've looked at a little bit of the answer key and how to show correctness, how to delete things, folders. What did we say? What was for folders?
That was for the graph in our practice lesson. So like we can add a
Right.
graph component.
Okay, yeah, so hidden folders. So sorry about that. There's so many things you can do in this. It's like, oh my gosh, which thing are we talking about? So when you notice that sometimes you have a graph, and let's say I wanted to plot like point A on somewhere. So if I say A equals 3, 2, and so I plot that point, I can do a few things where I can make it be labeled as the point A. I can also long press on a graphing calculator in order to bring up a lot of options, like if I want to turn off the drag feature. But what's nice in these graphs, because when I preview this, they see where A is and they can kind of mess with it. They can turn it on and off. They can accidentally delete it. And of course, they can undo that. But maybe you don't want them to mess with something that's on the screen. So if you're doing a full screen graphing calculator and you don't want them to mess with something, you can add a folder, put it inside the folder, and then you can hide the folder. So when I hide the folder, there's a little checkbox that you should see. You should have a single checkbox there. And this is just my, point hidden folder. Here's a pro tip move for you. When you are in the graphing calculator, there's a handful of keyboard shortcuts you can type that will create the thing you're trying to think of. So table is one that a lot of people do, but folder is another. So if I type the word folder, it actually builds me a folder there. So that's for graphing calculator, and you can hide that so that now point A is here, but they don't see it over in the expression list over on the side. And somebody's asking about feedback with self-checking and CL stuff. That is definitely a deeper level with CL, still very doable. Let's now take a look at renaming this, but also some copy and pasting it. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to open the original link to our original kind of slide. So if I was on one of these slides from before, and I didn't want to recreate the whole thing that somebody had already spent time on, I liked how they did it. So for example, this slide where it says, Farah says slope is 2, Latifa says the slope is 1/2, and I just want to copy that. Maybe edit it slightly, but I want to copy it. When you open a slide, whether you're in preview or almost any situation, you can do your classic keyboard shortcut, Control C or Command C. So if I do that, when I'm just clicked on the slide, it says I can copy this, or I can actually click on the little button where it has kind of the copy and paste kind of icon with the stacked pages there. So I can copy that. And then I just go to my activity that I was editing, and now I'm going to do the shortcut for paste, which is Command V. And when you do that, it just inserts the whole screen with all the components that were there. Notice that you also have copy and paste on individual components. So if I wanted to take this picture and add it to another screen, but I don't want to add everything else from this screen, I can copy an individual component, go somewhere else, and paste that individual component. Awesome. And for the feedback sheet, is the feedback sheet, I just want to know, are they asking about the self-checking feedback, or do they?
Not sure. I'm just asking for some more information about what's meant by a feedback sheet.
Okay. Because feedback, there is a thing called feedback, like in the part of an activity where a teacher can type feedback, but that's not really automated. It's more like the teacher kind of leaving a note for the student to read within the activity itself.
Mhm.
Okay, I do want to spend a few minutes right now on, yeah, this is kind of like our last little run here on card sorts, because card sorts are probably the most versatile. You guys have been hanging in there with us for a while. So let's talk card sorts. I have a card sort, create a card sort here on my screen. In order for me to create a card sort, I have to first click on the button, card sort. And once I have a card sort here, I can add a few different things. And I think that mine shows category, but I think in general, for free, we get the math or text, image, graph, or geometry. Would you confirm that, Scott?
Uh,
Or is category something they see too? I don't think
no,
that.
I'll check on that for you and get back to you in just a second.
All right, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Um, and apologies again for any confusion there. Maybe somebody can even drop in the chat if they know in the card sort if they see category or not. But so I have these math, text, graph, and geometry. Oh, there's no geometry. There should be so geometry you might have to enable, and we can show you that in the labs. I think for you to use geometry in your activity builder construction, you do need to enable it. So I'm going to show that here as well. So I just mentioned like activating or enabling something. I'm going to briefly show that if you're in any screen that's kind of like your home screen and you have this bar over here, there's a lot of, before we get into constructing the card sort, we'll come back to it because this is a piece that I missed. Your profile is here. You also have a home page. You have content, which is if you have license to amplify content. You have my stuff, which is where this stuff is going to get saved. You can also access a little bit of like professional development library. And this admin portal is where you would set up classes and do things like that. But how do I get geometry as a feature for adding geometry things into Activity Builder? Under Profile and Amplify Labs, these are features that you may want to enable, like they're either in beta testing or they're just additional features for you to throw in. So things like projector mode, sketch everywhere, companion mode, but geometry. I want to use the geometry tool in Activity Builder. So again, how did I get there? When I was back into anywhere where I'm like at classroom.amplify.com, and that takes me to like my home page. And over on the side menu, this sidebar, I click on my profile, which is my initials down in the corner, and Amplify Labs. So labs are extra features like marble slides, geometry, etc. So that's probably something else we'll add to our notes for future versions of this webinar, is to make sure we talk about the labs. And most of the time there's no penalty, no downfall to like adding those things. Even though it says beta testing, they are stable as any other feature that you see in here. Okay, let's bring it home with a card sort. So if I want to add a card sort, I just click on these buttons and I'm going to add, like I have a graph card there. I can add a geometry card. Is it? Oh, it's wanting me to edit those as soon as I add them. But now notice when I have these features, I can start editing them. So on my text card, I can say like, this is a title that I want. On the image card, I can drag an image over such that I can like insert an image either by uploading or dragging something from a download. On a graph card or a geometry card, I can go in and type in some sort of graph that I want to display, and it'll show that graph. The card sort is probably the most important screen to preview because you don't know how small your cards actually appear to everybody until you preview it. And a lot of times they do appear rather small. So you can tell students they can zoom in. You can also tell them that when they click on a card, it pops it on the screen, but you still want to see how that looks. And maybe you tell yourself that title doesn't have the pop that I want. Is there anything I can do? Well, there's two big things you can do. One, on any text card, you have any card, you have a 3-dot menu, but you can make it a larger card, which usually means I intend this to be like the header or the like category title of the group. So now when I make the title a large card, it's just ever so slightly wider than the other cards. And that just makes it kind of imply that's my header card. But how could I be more fun with those kind of things? There's a lot of different ways. I'll show you the way I've done it for literally almost a decade that I've used this move. But this being a Google account, it's very easy for me to create a new slideshow. But I'm going to essentially create a new slideshow. So I'll go to slides.new. And if you're in Google, that just makes you create a new slideshow. What then I will do is I'll use maybe just this title as my title. And let's say I was doing titles that were similar to before, like linear. And I want this to be my linear title card. I can make that font extra large. Maybe I want the background to be colored. So I could change the background to be maybe like this muted red. But oh, I don't like the font. I want the font to be Helvetica. Actually, let's go like fancy, like Comforta. And now that I have this card, I could change the size of it. So if you want to go into your page setup and change the size of your card to maybe be more like a horizontal bar, you could. I'm just going to leave this one as is for right now. And I'll call this like images, just to give it a title. And I'll do file, download this as a JPEG. Because I'm working in Google Chrome, my downloads show up right over here. Now it says add an image by dragging it here or clicking to upload. And I can just drag my image right there. And now I have this image that's a little bit styled differently, a little bit bigger, my own font that I wanted. If you want to make custom images, pictures, things like that, it's probably going to be something where you make it an image in a slideshow and download it as an individual picture or image. Okay, so how do I make an answer key? Let's say I just want the title and linear to be an answer key and these other ones to be an answer key. I don't do it while I'm in preview. That's something that is often what a lot of people think. But when you're creating a card sort, there's this button down in the bottom left that says add answer key. When I click on add answer key, I can now group the things and those will be the answer key. So let's say I wanted the graphs together and the words together. So I have my words together and my graphs together. When I go to preview, I could test it for correctness. So if I put those together, it says those are correct. If I were to put something in the wrong group, it would show that that was incorrect. So that's one way you can kind of test that your answer key is correct or is as intended. You can also, not everything has to be in a group. So a single card can be considered its own group. That's another kind of authoring technique. Sometimes you have leftover cards that don't fit into a group, and those are intended to be them by themselves. Okay, I'm going to bring us back to kind of our final screens because we want to make sure you guys have resources and also a chance to give feedback on how you want to make this session better. We really, really, really would appreciate feedback on improving this session because it is currently kind of going through some edits that we're trying to make it better as a webinar. All right, so I am going to ask you to come back to the original activity, and I'm going to paste you to our last 3 screens. Actually, our last 2 screens. I'll remove the pacing later, but on these last 2 screens, we have a couple of things that I didn't do. A collection of starter screens. Starter screens are activities where you can have these screens that are already made and you just want to use one and say, I want to take this screen and I want to copy and paste it. So starter screens are intended for you to copy and paste into your lessons as a warm-up, as a check-in. There's also things that are random generators. So if you want things to just kind of randomly generate a number on their screen for a game you're doing. There are ways that you can have some screens that do some data collection, uses a little bit of CL or the computation layer. So like when we had you tell you where you were on the map or what was your experience and it created a chart that went along with it, there's some starter screens that do that for you already. And you can copy and paste the whole screen. It copy and paste the code that was already put into the background of it, all those kind of things. So that's our starter screens. There's more on the Polypad info here. Here is the link to the activity that I was running with you. You can sign up for the newsletter. The Facebook group is pretty active, and sometimes it's meant like as a collaborative help for people searching for help. Sometimes it's also just a community for people to share, like, look at this stuff. I could appreciate any feedback or any comments on how we can make it better. There's also Amplify accounts you can follow on X and Blue Sky. The most important thing, though, is the Google form right now. And I'm going to copy and paste this. Or do you have it ready, Scott? I'm going to get it. There we go.
Mine's a different link than that one, so.
Oh, we had this before.
I think
which one?
the code looks different, but it is linking to the same.
Okay, I've got one here. So here we go.
I'm gonna let the one that Scott has be the one that we ask you to put in.
Yep.
As long as we're getting the responses. So as long as Kristen gets the responses, I think we're good. All right, so that survey is where we would ask that you fill out some feedback. Do they have to name the
No, they do not. They just put their name and the session title, which would be Intro to Activity Builder.
I'm going to type that real quick. Intro to Activity Builder. That's what I was wondering, if they needed to name it. Intro to Activity Builder is the name of this session.
Correct.
If you see a similar session called like Intro to Facilitating Activities or Intro to the Dashboard, you're going to see a very similar kind of video with a lot of the same buttons, but not the same content. It's more about running the activity and less about trying to build or edit the activity. All right, I'm going to turn off the pacing. So that means anytime you want to go back and look at any other screen from that webinar that we were running, you can. But thank you everyone so much for tonight.
Yeah. So Jed, in our time that we've got here, if you wanted, I've got a sample of a challenge creator that someone could copy And
Yeah.
so if you could go to just land the plane.
Yes, I could do that. So I'm going to search for an activity here called land the plane. And I'm going to do the classics.
And then the
Okay.
last screen, yep, is one that's a class gallery like you were talking about of a challenge creator.
Well, here's a class gallery, and I can literally copy that. I had almost forgotten about that. Actually, I had forgotten about that. So thank you for remembering.
Mhm.
And I paste it in, and here's a challenge creator already done. So great to just use what other people have made.
Mhm.
We still have about 10 minutes here. If you do have questions, I'm sure you do. But if you are wanting to share that question, please do. We have about 10 minutes as we kind of close out the session. Could we share the activity for land the plane? Yes, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to remind how I found it. So when I went to my kind of homepage with classroom.amplify.com, and I'm here in my top corner, I have a search box and I typed in land the plane, which this is an activity that is free for people to copy items from. There's no licensing to it. It's one of the classic activities. I click on it and then copy it here by opening the preview screen. But here will be the direct link to it. I'm actually going to do the share activity and grab that link. It's a little bit cleaner. Oh, you already got it.
Yep, all taken care of.
Awesome. Good job. Scott, do you have any notes, things that you noticed different this time around?
So you were asking on the one feature that is different in the account that you're in terms of the card sort. It was the category is the extra feature that you had that's different.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
that's it.
Awesome. Have you done this session yet as the new?
Not the new one. Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new here. You and I
Mhm.
have a lot of these, and there's a lot of new in this one.
Mhm.
Kristen, I don't know about you, but I think it already feels better having them with the template activity, being able to jump in and just remix a little bit and being able to get those pictures back as well. So thank you everybody for sharing. That was great.
Yes, and please fill out the feedback form. We also want to know what's really working so that we can continue to keep those in these webinars. And if you guys are teaching other subjects or different grade levels and you want content more customized towards you, please share it. We do look at it. I will look at it immediately after this. So please share.
It's great. It's great.
Yay.
Evie, we're very glad that that's the case.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brianna, too.
That has been like one of the things we've kind of bragged about with a lot of these tools is that there is so often something you can literally do tomorrow, especially with the copy and paste. When they added copy and paste, because that was not always a thing, but us that had been using the tool for a while, we're like, oh my gosh, you've saved me hours to be able to copy and paste things. Yes, applause to that. You are welcome, everyone. If you're done and you're just like, I've been sitting for too long because I did not give you a break, and I'm sorry, not sorry, because I really wanted to make sure we kind of touched everything. But you all did great for those 90 minutes. Feel free to give yourself a 5-minute break now here at the end. And we're still here as long as you have questions or any other comments. You are welcome. Oh, that's a great comment. I don't know if you saw that one, Kristen. Just what they expected and hoped for. Oh, and somebody who's at 2 a.m. and they're still excited about it. That's great.
Yes, Jose, buena noche.
Yeah.
You in Italia.
Oh my goodness. You're welcome, everyone. And good luck. Please do reach out. There's support channels as well and communities. Everybody loves to help because we all want you to make great things so we can steal it from you.
Jed, as we're winding down here,
Mhm.
oh wait, we've got a question about sharing the activity students. My students can sometimes see their class, or sometimes I have to share from Amplify Student Link. I'm not sure. I think the
So the
oh
only thing I would
yeah.
say is like when you assign it to them, if they don't see it, that's, part of another webinar, but they might have to click in their to do column. Have you noticed that, Scott?
Yeah, yes. Or it could be something in a past activity as to something that's upcoming. Yeah. Um, one thing I was going to say in the last couple of minutes here is if you wanted to go back into your build screen and just show how you can duplicate a screen. So if you have something you want to use
Yes.
twice, of how to do
Yeah.
that.
So duplicate a screen is you could copy and paste like before, but there's also a 3-button menu over in the top left that allows for duplicate screen. Yours would only have the duplicate screen feature instead of all those fancy other authoring features, but it would allow you to do the duplicate screen.
Mhm.
That's something interesting that I just noticed because I thought I saw it and it was a little bit different. This one. So on this screen, Kristen, do you know if you used like the 2/3, 1/3 layout or
No.
something?
Thank you, Rena. So glad that you could join us.
I just noticed that and it was a interesting way that it was laid out. Is the newsletter a regular email? Yes. Okay. Where's the link to the
Hey,
newsletter?
I got the newsletter link, so I'll drop it in here real quick.
Awesome.
It's an email that goes out once a month. So if you're interested, you can sign up.
And in terms of signing up for webinars, I don't know if those are always advertised in the newsletter. I think they are, but you can go to the professional development page and sign up for any webinar, including these more like technical how to build things. But sometimes they also just have webinars that are about kind of like the conceptual design and the features of the curriculum itself. So there's lots of different content that you can sign up for, and all the webinars are free. I don't think I've seen a paid webinar yet. Oh, did we need to? So Kristen, it looks like you sent that to us, not to
Yes, I
everyone.
posted it to everyone. We're good.
Oh, you
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
did? There we go. Awesome. You all are welcome. I think we are down to our last minute and a half here. Kristen, I call it a win. There's still more cleanup to do, more polish to do, but I think that was a big jump. A big
Yeah,
jump.
it was. It was amazing. Thank you. Great feedback. I'm excited. I'm excited to keep doing these.
Yeah, we need to say thank you to previous panelists that ran it too, because
Yeah.
I don't want to say names like in a webinar, but like their feedback was a lot and very good, very
Yes.
targeted feedback.
Yeah,
So
sure.
great stuff. All
Thank
right,
you, everyone. Thank you guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.